Mitch Rhodes. Statement / novel from Mitch Rhodes. I apologize. Okay, Mitch Rhodes was president, I think it was from 2001 to 2004 or 5. Can you hear me? Sorry. Yes. Okay, so Mitch is in Halifax. He said he wished he could have been teleported. So here we go. Now, pronounced in Squamish, it means hello. Bonjour, hello friends, good evening. I'm writing this from the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. I now live and work in Halifax as a 5th-generation settler on the unceded traditional territory of Mi'kmaq First Nations. Welcome to the beautiful Squamish Lillock Cultural Centre. What a perfect venue to host the 30th anniversary of Aware. From my early 20s, I held the intention to live life without regrets. Not being here in person to share this celebration with you, I may have to carry this one regret with me. Most of you don't know me or I you, and yet I feel we are deeply connected. Just as we taste the rain and the earth when we bite into a Pemberton potato, or smell the remnants of the last ice age as we rip through powder on a blueboard day on the Horseman Glacier, we are connected to all things through time and space. Duality is an illusion. Einstein's theory of relativity is about time and space. Might it also be about truth? There is no truth. There is only what you believe. And so what you choose to believe is the foundation of your life. I believe you and I, all of us, are at a watershed moment. These days, our multimedia is so full of cataclysmic news, we are barely able to process our grief about one thing before another surfaces. There's too much to conceivably grieve about without slipping into despair. So many of us have grown accustomed to living with a level of numbness to this compassion fatigue. Denial serves a purpose in that it helps us to compartmentalize so that we can continue to function. But just as numbing our personal grief results in stuckness, which keeps us from truly belonging to our lives, disconnecting from the great grief of our planet puts us out of touch with the feeling of kinship we need to inspire us to act. Aware provided me with that kinship, and it can be that way for you too. Tonight is about reconnecting, being together, and inspiration. I hope my Aware stories help accomplish that. In May of '98, I moved from Whistler to Toronto, a chartered accountant who worked on Bay Street, a city boy through and through. Things are different now. The late Ray Anderson, one of my mentors, the former CEO of Interface Carpets and the first publicly traded company in North America to adopt sustainability principles based on the natural step, described his point of clarity, an epiphany that changed the direction of his life forever. He called it his spear in the chest moment. Mine came in that July of my first summer in Whistler. It was on an overnight hike in the Ilaho Valley, guided by Joe Foy and a team from the Western Canada Wilderness Committee. Standing in a grove of 1,300-year-old Douglas fir trees, for me, was an overwhelming and a spiritual experience. Then someone said to me, if you come here in a year from now, this will all be gone. That was my spear in the chest moment. It changed my life forever. At the time I replied, that's a crime against humanity. And now here we are, over 20 years later, those trees are still standing, while you listen to my story of the profound impact those trees had and still have on my life. In 1999, there was a shout out in the Peak written by Aware President Stéphane Perron. It was an encouragement, well, a plea really, for others to come to the AGM and join Aware. As with many volunteer leaders of nonprofits driven by passion and too few dollars, after 3 years at Aware's helm, Stéphane with a newborn was near burnout. The article in that Peak resonated in the community, resulting in a record turnout for the AGM that year. Was it the Douglas firs from the Ilaho whispering to me, go, go? Perhaps. Whatever the driver, I found myself in Myrtle Phillips Gymnasium, packed with people I didn't know, listening to guest speaker Wayne McCrory tell bear stories. My city boy sensibilities found it difficult to comprehend. Things are different now. That night, magic happened. A group of strangers stepped up and joined the board, bringing new life and direction to Aware. Inga Flanagan, Brad Castleman, Eckert Zeisler, and myself were the newbies. We joined other long-timers such as Vincent Massey, Max Goetz, and Stéphane stayed on as president. That group of newbies took charge. Soon after joining Aware, Eckert as treasurer, me as vice president, we presented to council in support of our grant and aid application. Afterwards, as we walked out the council chambers, Stéphane said to me, man, Aware has gone from witches and soothsayers to bankers and accountants. That comment will stay with me forever, always bringing a smile. Was it true? No. 10 years earlier, Aware was founded by a dedicated group of activists to start a recycling program. Ken Melamed, former councillor and mayor and a mentor to me during my Aware days, was a key member of that original group. And once successful, they broadened their scope and their influence in the community. As the millennia turned, I joined AWARE. At the time, it was a volunteer organization with just over $5,000 in annual funding. AWARE had 105 active portfolios. 105 active portfolios. Here's an example of how that came to be. Incoming phone call to AWARE. Oh, hey, they're hitting golf balls off of Mount Curry. Start a portfolio. True story. That banker, accountant, and real estate agent and entrepreneur gelled into a core team that set out to do some damage in a good way. The first order of business, a strategic plan for the organization, a first ever for AWARE. It took 4 months, or maybe 6, I can't recall. However long it took, there was sweat, tears, maybe even a little blood. That's what it took to get 105 portfolios down into 2 solid campaigns, Whistler's Wilderness Backyard and Whistler's Valley Bottom. The strategic planning process and the 2 resulting campaigns brought renewed credibility to AWARE. Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and other community groups requested presentations by AWARE to outline its new direction. Membership and fundraising increased. Many strong candidates expressed interest in joining AWARE's board. At the next AGM, for the first time in AWARE's history, the number of people wanting to be on the board were more than the bylaws permitted, requiring elections. I moved from vice president to AWARE president in 2001. The organization gained strength just at the right time. Did the stars align in 7th heaven? Because the amount of shit about to hit the fan was certainly building in painful constipation. Interfor quietly submitted a plan to punch a logging road to the back of the Ilaho Valley. Those Douglas firs no longer whispered to me, they screamed. The war in the woods began. RCMP snipers in the trees, protesters hospitalized by angry gangs of loggers, and regular people jailed for standing on a road in defiance of a court injunction. It was going off. AWARE rallied support in Whistler, getting the mayor, the vice president of Whistler Blackcomb, the president of Tourism Whistler, and the general manager of the Chateau Whistler, all to sign objection letters to the Interfor proposal. It worked. Interfor's application got stuck in its tracks. Whistler and AWARE, vacationing in Whistler, spoke to community leaders from business, government, and nonprofits, including AWARE. Many of you likely don't remember a time when the term sustainability wasn't so widely used. It was a time before an inconvenient truth, climate change, 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Arctic oscillation. Things are different now. Back then, many in Whistler perceived a better way to engage with each other, perhaps an end, or at least a reduction, to the often acrimonious battles between economics and the environment, that classic paradigm. Could Whistler be different? The environment is the key asset. If not here, then where? While it didn't happen instantaneously, it didn't take too long for different stakeholders to see the benefits and agree to take the natural step towards sustainability. Mayor Hugh O'Reilly likened it to strapping your snowboard or skis on your back and cutting a trail up the mountain to get a fresh track. Whistlerites understood this metaphor implicitly, difficult with a payoff worth the effort. Time here doesn't allow for a proper telling of this story and AWARE's pivotal role in it. AWARE, the Muni, Tourism Whistler, and the Natural Step formed a task team of early adopters to germinate a plan and launch the idea of sustainability into the community. Jim Godfrey and Dave Waldron of the RMOW were instrumental players in those early days. 2 speaker series, a video, community toolkits sent to every household in Whistler, many community hoo-haws, and so much more were part of this effort, which led to a group of early adopter organizations, AWARE, the RMOW, Whistler Blackcomb, Chateau Whistler, Tourism Whistler, which all undertook train-the-trainer programs to develop and embed knowledge about sustainability into their organizations. This story is Hollywood epic. For any filmmakers out there, look into it. There's a cast of characters with heroes and villains, mind-bending plot twists with at least 3 acts that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you've seen the online ad campaigns running today promoting Whistler to the world via the internet, they're a riff from the Whistler It's Our Nature campaign that launched sustainability into the community in the early 2000s. Whistler 2020 is one of the legacies from that time. 2020 seemed so far off then. Things are different now. The strategy, the tactic, the dream was to position Whistler at the center, bringing a message of sustainability to the world by being a living classroom. And then we were handed a megaphone bigger than any of us could have imagined. Vancouver Whistler won the right to bid for the 2010 Olympic Winter Games. Many of you likely have an incredible 2010 Olympic memories culminating in an overtime goal by Sidney Crosby to win a gold medal in men's hockey. My memories are different. I remember about 40% of Whistlerites initially being opposed to the Olympics. I remember the crushing pressure for AWARE to be the voice of that opposition. I remember the near fisticuffs at unofficial AWARE board gatherings where we tried to hammer out AWARE's position on the games. I remember feeling like the lone voice for taking a strategic path rather than the one expected of us. I remember this being one of the hardest things I've ever done. Convincing my colleagues, my compadres, and my closest friends not to have Aware officially oppose the Olympic bid, not to support it either, rather just to stay neutral. My logic, if we were to oppose the Olympic bid and the bid were successful, Aware would forever be shouting from the outside rather than influencing from the inside. That was the crux of the decision. Olav Myrholt was a Norwegian environmental activist and a thorn in the side of the 1994 Lillehammer Games. Later, he became an IOC insider and key influencer on the selection committee for many Olympic Games that followed, including 2010. I can still imagine the shock that the Vancouver 2010 bid committee brass must have felt when the first thing Olav said to them when he arrived at YVR was, "I want to meet with those Aware people." I believe Olav's insistent request helped Aware decide to be insiders and not outsiders. Aware board members sat on numerous bid committees such as housing, transportation, and environment, to name a few. Whistler's sustainability principles became the DNA of the Olympic bid. On July 2nd, 2003 in Prague, the IOC awarded the 2010 Games to Vancouver. In the acceptance speech, John Furlong, CEO of the bid and later of the organizing committee, boldly proclaimed that Whistler's deal-breaker commitment to sustainability is ultimately what won the day in a successful bid. With all this going on, as well as an added Aware campaign of composting with a demonstration model and community garden at the Waldorf School, being a volunteer-only organization wasn't cutting it. And so the board decided the time had come to hire Aware's first ever employee, a part-time projects coordinator. It's all we could afford. Inga Flanagan, Brad Castleman, and Mitch Rhodes were tasked with the hiring process. The list of candidates was impressive, and we narrowed it to a short list of 4. I think you all know the wise decision we made. In case you don't know that with me. Became the glue that held the organization together. With a rare combination of knowledge, tenacity, enthusiasm, and a deep passion for environmental issues, she miraculously held things together during that demanding, tumultuous time in Aware's history. The challenges we all faced, the demands and stresses for us to do the right thing for the environment and our community, created a deep sense of meaning and purpose in us. It also knitted us closer, as colleagues, as activists, as friends, allowing us to have a shitload of fun together. My Aware days are among the fondest of my life. For 2 years running, Aware was the NGO beneficiary of the Cornucopia Festival. It was an awesome fundraiser requiring tons of work, mostly coordinated by Tina. Here's the thing, at the end of the festival, literally hundreds of open and not empty bottles of fine wines needed to be disposed of. Who does that? Giving environmental activists access to that kind of treasure. Did any of us show up for work the next day? Aware's meetings were generally all business. After the meetings, there was a ritual. Let's just say that now that ritual would be legal. Back then it was not. In support of the Ilaho campaign, Aware organized a multi-day hike from the Ilaho Valley to Meager Creek Hot Springs. As some of us were breaking off the ends of toothbrushes and taking other measures to reduce the grams of weight off our backpacks, I remember at the end of our second day hike, Ecker pulls out a full bottle of wine, and Dan, Tina's future husband, strolls out of his tent in a full-length flannel bathrobe. We still laugh. I've been on many multi-day hikes in my life, but I doubt any will top the magic of that experience. And the end of it, while soothing our bodies in the elixir of Meager's hot water, we loudly and openly relished and rejoiced in the bond we shared from that hike and Aware. This seemed to scare away all the other patrons. Then someone said, "When did we become the weird naked people?" Things are different now. It's your time. Make your own kind of Aware magic.